So today what we're going to be doing together, one chapter at a time, and we're going to go through it week by week. And so today we are going to start out with the doctor's opinion. And I'm really excited to do this with you guys. Now, I mean, there are probably meetings that you could go to in your town where you could do the same thing if that's something that you would rather do. But I thought it would be something that we could do together. And
if I go in the bathroom, if I go in the bath, there's a spider right on my spider wall.
Okay, don't go in there then.
Where can I go pee?
Oh, right down here. Now give me a kiss.
Mommy?
Yes.
Anybody don't go in the bath because there's a spider.
I'll kill it in a second. Now give me a kiss.
Look at that.
Okay.
I have a boo-boo in it.
You're welcome. Anytime. I was listening. I did a drive-by. So here we are, you guys. This is what we're going to do. So I'm going to give everybody, I don't know how many people are going to show up today, but we'll give everybody 7 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes to get into the door. So we're going to.
Promise me, sir. Start it over.
Go. Go, Nate. I'll be right back, you guys. Okay. Hey, Krissy, will you do me a favor? Will you greet everybody? I'm going to go get Nate settled in, and I'll be right back, you guys. So moderators, let everybody know to get their books, doctor's opinion, and I'll be right back.
There's no spiders, though.
Okay, go. So, show me, Nate. I told you what I was going to do. Okay. All right, people, I'm back. Okay, guys. Hey, y'all. Thank you, Krissy. Okay, guys, what's up? Disclaimer. Like, we're just going to go through this, you guys. Hey, Miss 519, how you doing? Right? Like, I'm preaching anything to you. I want you guys to know that this is something we're doing together, all right? And you guys are helping me. And by allowing me to read with you guys and share this with y'all, it's helping me stay on track. And it's helping me very much. So thank you so much for allowing me to, guide you guys and lead you on this big book study today. So first of all, I want to share with you guys, like, I love reading out of this big book, the Alcoholics Anonymous big book. When I first started trying to get sober, I could not understand it. I would think, it was like they were reading Chinese letters to me. I could not understand. But I'm going to tell you something. As I got sober this last time and I started trying to change and be better, like genuinely trying to be a better person, things just started clicking for me. And then my sponsor would explain it to me. And don't be embarrassed. If you want to ask questions, if you need me to stop and start over or read a part over that you don't understand, say it. Okay. I'm going to be watching y'all's comments. So that's what we're going to do. So we're starting out in the doctor's opinion. So let's do this. I'm excited. And I hope, when I get tomorrow, me and Neil are going to go to Best Buy together and we're going to go get a laptop. So hopefully by the time all that stuff happens next week, we'll have a new setup and I'll be able to put things on the projector. I mean, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to have to figure it out. I'm going to have to watch some classes like online. I'll be learning, but we're going to do it together. So anyways, here we go, y'all. This is the doctor's opinion. Get in your seat, buckle up, and get ready because the doctor's fixing to tell y'all what's up. Here we go. We of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in this book. Convincing testimony must surely come from medical men who have had experience with the sufferings of our members and have witnessed our return to health. A well-known doctor, chief physician at a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction, gave Alcoholics Anonymous this letter.
I'm just looking for my phone.
It's upstairs on my windowsill, right by the bed. So, this letter that I'm about to read from you guys is what the doctor wrote. Okay, this doctor he saw many people who had addiction and alcoholism, and he would treat them. So this is what he wrote. To whom it may concern. I have specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years. In late 1930, I attended a patient who, though he had been a competent businessman of good earning capacity, was an alcoholic of a type I had come to regard as hopeless. So, back in 1934, you guys, he had a patient who he was taking care of. He was a businessman. He had a good job. He was doing well, but he was such a hopeless alcoholic. Alcoholism had ravished his life. And so this doctor had been trying to treat him for years. And he thought, this guy's never going to get sober. He's hopeless. Okay. In the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. So, he's talking about Bill W. So he was seeing Bill, and Bill had been in and out of sanitariums, is what they would call them. Basically, mental institutions for alcohol. Because back then, in the 1930s, when you were struggling with addiction or alcoholism, they would send you to the crazy house because they didn't know what to do with you. So they would send you to the mental asylum. So he had been seeing Bill for a while, in and out, in and out. And the next story we're going to read next week is Bill's story. So all this will come together next week. So Dr. Silkworth had been seeing Bill over and over again, coming in and out of the sanitarium, the mental hospital. And on his third time in, he acquired an idea concerning a possible means of recovery. So here we go. As part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to other alcoholics, impressing upon them that they must do likewise with still others. So let me tell you what that means. So on his third time in the crazy house, he came to this conclusion, him and his friend Ebby, his best friend, that if they would share their stories, their alcoholic, like what they were going through, right, with other alcoholics and pass it on, right? So that's what they were talking about. Hey, girl. Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Annie. So what they were saying is, as a part of their rehabilitation, they wanted to share their stories with others, okay? And so this was part of the program that they were building that later on down the years becomes AA. Okay, so they said that they wanted to share their story with other alcoholics, and they told them that you must tell your story with others. Okay, so he's in the mental institution. He is coming out of a drunk, and his friend Ebby got sober before him. So Ebby was coming in to see him, and he was telling him, Bill, I found religion. I found God. I'm changing my life, right? Well, Bill wasn't religious, you guys. He was like, you found God? And so he was like, wait a second. But that's when he realized, like, I can have my own conception of God, right? And so they joined forces. These are two best friends. So Abby started sponsoring Bill, basically. And instead of like getting all religious and stuff, Bill and Abby came up together with this idea that they could share their stories with others, and that you just had to have your own conception of God, which is what when we talk about step 1 is we admitted we were powerless over drugs and alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2 is coming to believe, or step 3 is coming to believe in a power greater than ourselves to restore us to sanity. Other way, baby, other way. I know you're doing such, I understand you're struggling, boy. Now you got to get one of those white plugins and plug this into the bottom of it. Okay? This one.
Mommy,
What, baby?
can you come upstairs and put on FTC on this phone?
Here.
Okay.
Take that.
You put FTC on this phone.
And go plug it in.
Okay. You put
Love you.
You put FTC on my phone.
Baby, it's on the TV, son. So, okay, let me get focused back now. I was on a roll there, you guys. I was on a roll. Okay. So, let's move forward. You like a rundown of families. This man and over 100 others appear to have recovered. Okay, so this is where they're talking about who were of the type with whom other methods had failed completely. These facts appear to be of extreme medical importance because of the extraordinary possibilities of rapid growth inherent in this group. They may mark a new epoch in the annals of alcoholism. These men may well have a remedy for thousands of such situations. You may rely absolutely on anything they say about themselves. So, yours truly, William D. Silkworth. So he was talking about Bill and Abby coming together, creating this program where they share their stories and they come to a conception of God. They come to their own conception of God, right? So that's what William D. Silkworth was sharing with us, the reader. He's telling us, hey, you know, I was treating this guy, Bill. He had been in and out of treatment for many, many years. And then one of his friends got sober, and they came up with this idea that if they share their stories and how they come to believe in their own concept of a higher power, then as long as they do that and pass it on to the next one, and then the next one passes it on to the next one, that people are getting sober. And the doctor was seeing people get sober. Hundreds of people were getting sober. And this is at a time in the 1930s where, you know, alcoholism, and it still is running rampant, but people were coming off of, like, you know, the wars, and the men were coming home and drinking themselves to death. And he was coming into contact with people like us, alcoholics and addicts, who were just out of their minds, who couldn't sober up any other way. They tried everything, you know? And so when he started believing in a power greater than himself and sharing his struggles with other men, they all started coming together and meeting up in Bill's house, you guys, right? So they came and they started meeting up and going like over to Bill's house, you guys, and like just hanging out and talking about their lives and how they wanted to be better. And these are all these alcoholics from all over, right? I mean, like in Bill's story, like I've watched it on TV and I've also read it, where like Lois, Bill's wife, is like telling you like, hey, these people are coming in and he's just bringing alcoholics in off the street, you know, and they're all just sitting there like we are right now, sharing with each other our struggles. And this is helping us heal, right? Okay. So let's move on. I'm getting all excited. Okay. The physician who at our request gave us this letter has been kind enough to enlarge upon his views in another statement which follows. In this statement, he confirms what we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe. Okay, now I want you to listen. That the body of the alcoholic or the addict is quite as abnormal as his mind. Okay. Hey, Rob. It did not satisfy us to be told that we could not control our drinking just because we were maladjusted to life, that we were in full flight from reality, or were outright mental defective. So we didn't want to we couldn't understand. Like, we're not just like, there's something more. It's not just because we're out of control. It's not just because we have this physical addiction to alcohol and drugs. There's something else more. Shares with us and lets us know, like, hey, it's not just because your lack of control. It's not just because you have bad morals and values, right? And so this is where the doctor lets us know, like, our minds as well as our bodies are sick from the disease of addiction. It's not just a lack of willpower. Okay, so here we go. Okay, these things were true to some extent. In fact, to considerable extent with some of us. But we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well, bodies and mind. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic or addict which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. The doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. So this is where they break it down for us. As laymen, our opinion as to its soundness may, of course, mean little. But as ex-problem drinkers, we can say that his explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account. Though we work out our solution on the spiritual as well as altruistic plane, we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is very jittery or befogged. So altruistic means lack of selfishness. So though we work out our solution on the spiritual as well as lack of or selflessness plane, we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who's very jittery or befogged. So what they're saying is, like, we can help you, but before you come, it would be a good idea to go and get detoxed from alcohol or drugs, right? So they're not saying, like, we can, sure, come on in, we're going to heal you from the disease of addiction and alcoholism. Like, some of us are going to have to go to detox, or some of us might even have to go to 30-day treatment centers, you guys. Like, that's one thing that the program is very clear about, is like, we're not doctors, and like, you have to do what you got to do to take care of you and to be healthy, right? Hey, Bethany. So let's go. More often than not, it is imperative that a man's brain be cleared before he is approached. So basically, we got to be sober, right? Before we can grasp what they're putting down, right? So if you come up to me and I'm all high, fucked up out of my mind, and you're trying to help me and share your story with me, I might hear parts of it, but I'm not really going to be able to connect with you until I get, clear-minded. So a lot of the times what we'll say is, like, keep coming back, right? The more you come back, the more you sit, the more you listen, maybe you'll hear something that will strike something in your mind, and you'll say, you know what? I'm ready to make a change, right? For many, many years, I would go to AA and NA, and I would go in high, y'all. I would be messed up at meetings, right? And they would tell me, they would not throw me out. They would not tell me never to come back. They would tell me to keep coming back, because I was hearing things. I was hearing stories of people who were, finding a solution. They were finding a connection with their higher power. They were finding a fellowship with other people who have been through the same thing they've been through. And I'm telling you what, that's one thing that AA has helped me so much, because it's like a connection with other people who have been through the same thing I've gone through, and who can understand. And I can't find a group of alcoholics and addicts like that, and I've never been able to find that until I went to a meeting, Now, though, with technology, you guys can come here and we can help each other. And that's what's so amazing, stuff like this, where we can get on the computer and connect with each other. That's why it's so important for us to share our stories, you guys, because we're helping each other. It's like a miracle, right? Back in 1934, They were in the crazy house and they were drunk, and their wives would throw them in the crazy house and say, you know what? I can't handle you, Bill. You got to go to the loony bin for a while. And his not like that. Bill's not like a religious guy, right? He's like, but he knows that he's got to do something. Concept of God, right? Whatever that nature, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And so through that, they built a connection and a bond. And then they started going around and telling other people about it, other alcoholics. They were like out on the street, you guys. And alcoholics were hanging out on the side of the road. And they're like, hey, man, come over to the house and hang out with us. Let's talk, right? Okay, sorry. Okay, so the man's brain must be cleared before he is approached, as he has then a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer. So then this is what the doctor says. So here the doctor's going to tell us some more stuff. So here we go. And I'll be still, because when I get like excited like that, I think that's why it's like cutting out. So here I go. The subject presents important. And if you suffer, I say this after many years' experience as a medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country treating alcoholic and drug addiction. Y'all tell me if it's freezing again. This is pissing me off. Nate! Sorry. Okay, sorry guys. So, mastered for a long time that some form, oh my gosh, I don't know. Hold on, you guys. Stay right there. Don't move. How is it, you guys? Let me know. Okay, I got off my Wi-Fi, so hopefully that will help. Okay, so here we go. Okay, there was therefore a sense of real satisfaction when I was asked to contribute a few words on a subject which is covered in such masterly detail in these pages. We doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology was of urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. What with our ultra-modern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. Many years ago, one of the leading contributors to this book came under our care in this hospital, and while here, he acquired some ideas which he put into practical application at once. So he's going into more detail about Bill. Later, he requested the privilege of being allowed to tell his story to other patients here, and with some misgiving, we consented. So Bill was like, let me come and share my story with other patients in the hospital, okay? And the doctors were like, are you sure about that? And he was like, yes, I need to share my story with them because this is going to help them heal. Okay, this is the beginning of AA. The cases we have followed through have been most interesting. In fact, many of them are amazing. The unselfishness of these men as we have come to know them, the entire absence of profit motive and their community spirit is indeed inspiring.
I need this for a second.
To one who has labored long and wearily in his alcoholic field. They believe in themselves and still more in the power which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. So let's read that part again. The unselfishness of these men as we have come to know them, the entire absence of profit motive, and their community spirit is indeed inspiring to one who has labored long and wearily in this alcoholic field. They believe in themselves and still more in the power which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. Here we go, y'all. That the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. Only people who have the disease of addiction. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. So, the doctors believe that it's an allergy and that it's a manifestation of an allergy, okay? And that when we take alcohol or substances into our bodies, that our bodies react differently. Our brains react differently than a normal person's does. That's why when somebody says, you could just choose to stop, or don't you love your family enough to not drink or use, or if you really loved your children, you would quit, right? No normal person who does not suffer from this disease of addiction understands, right, that addiction is a craving that the chemicals in our brain release differently. Everything reacts differently to alcohol and drugs than a normal person's does, you guys, okay? And that's why when we take drugs and alcohol, we want more, right? A person who doesn't have the disease of addiction, they're like, get that shit away from me, or I have had too much. I'm drunk. I don't want any more, right? But to an alcoholic or an addict like you and me, we're like, yeah, we're just getting started, you guys. We're just getting started. And it's because our body reacts differently to the drugs and the alcohol. It's allergic to it. Okay, here we go. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. So when we're hearing other people talk about the disease of addiction or alcoholism, when we hear people that are sharing and they have been through what we've been through, that shit right there is what we connect with, because we're like, oh, and you guys know how it is. Like when you're hearing somebody and they're like a counselor, you always relate to the people that know where you've come from. They have depth and weight in their story, what they're talking about, their experience. In nearly all cases, their ideas must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. If any feel that as a psychiatrist directing a hospital for alcoholics, we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us a while on the firing line. See the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work, and even of their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. Hey, Nick. So what he's saying, if you don't understand what we're going through over here, come and be with us. Come watch us as we see the wives and the children who are losing their fathers to alcoholism. Okay? What'll happen, and when you work with these people every day, right? You go to bed and you think about, I've got to help this person. And so then Bill and Abby have figured out this way, and people are getting sober, right? they're going around the hospital and they're sharing their stories and they're finding powers greater than themselves, their own concept, and dudes are getting sober. And the doctors are like, what the hell? What is going on? Can you believe that? Like, that's connection. That's them not, oh my God, you guys, it's so amazing. And it's all because, listen, two best friends. Imagine your best friend, he's in the hospital and he's been drinking himself to death. And you went out and found Jesus, right? That happens for some people. Some people can go to church and find God and never drink again, right? But that's not how it was for Bill. Bill was like going back and forth. And then Ebby's like, man, I found God, right? And so now they're going around the whole mental ward or the hospital, the sanitarium, and Bill's going and he's telling his story to other alcoholics, and they're coming over to his house and hanging out. And Lois is like, well, he's not drunk. He's not, on the side of the road. She's probably in the kitchen baking cookies and making coffee. So freaking amazing. We feel after many years of experience that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. So after many years of trying to help alcoholics and addicts, the doctors have found nothing that has contributed more than the unselfishness, the selflessness of these men that are sharing their struggles, their burden, and that's what they're doing. They're sharing their struggle, so that way they're not carrying their struggle on their own. And that's what you do, is somebody else starts carrying those burdens with you. So that's what the whole point is. It's like we come together and we're helping each other, right? So that way your load that you're carrying around isn't as heavy. When you have somebody to help you carry the load, it's a lot easier, right? Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. Like, I know the reason why I drank and used is because I liked the way it made me feel. I mean, I was using and drinking to cope with things, but when I used and drank, I liked the way I felt. It made me feel good. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, it's hurting them, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. So, the sensation that drugs and alcohol provide for us, the feeling is so elusive, right? It's so that while we know we're killing ourselves, while we know we're losing our kids, while we know we're going to get a DWI, while we know we are trading our bodies for drugs, okay? We can't stop. We can't see the true from the false, reality from fantasy, right? Everything just starts going. Like, they are okay, here it is. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one, okay? The only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others taking with impunity. Okay. Drinks that we see other people, normal people, taking without any consequences. Well, Jan can drink and she doesn't get DWIs. Well, Johnny can get high and he doesn't lose his job. But I'm over here getting high and I ain't got shit. My kids are gone. My wife is gone. My car's wrecked. I'm in jail. Like, when an alcoholic and an addict, that sense and ease and comfort that we get from the first drink, it's like, that's what I needed. But then that first drink is never enough. It's like we have to have more, right? After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops. Now, this is where they're telling you, you take the first drink, okay? You're triggered. You have a thought, okay? Then you act on the thought and you drink, or use drugs, okay? Then that craving, because remember what I told you guys, you can't crave something unless you've taken it into your body. So when we say, oh, I'm craving, I want to get high, right? No, you're triggered. You're thinking about using, but you're not, as long as you don't put that in your body, you're okay. Just don't pick up no matter what, right? But sometimes it's not that easy because the obsession comes over you. And that obsession to use is so great, you guys. It's like, I can remember not wanting to get high so bad and wanting to stay sober, but not being able to do it. I did not want to use, but I had to use. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I hated myself when I would use. I wanted to commit suicide. I wanted to die, but it was like I had to, you know what I mean? After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree. Okay, y'all all know what a spree is, the vicious cycle. Emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. So we pick up, we get high, we go off the rails. Maybe we go out and we cheat on our husband. Maybe we drive our car into a brick wall. Maybe DHS comes to your door and takes your kids away, right? And you sober up and you go, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to drink again. I'm never going to use again. I'm never going to take Xanax again. I'm never going to shoot dope again, right? This is repeated over and over and over and over and over and over. And unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. Okay, you're probably going, psychic change? What the fuck are you talking about? A change in the way you think. That's what a psychic change is, okay? Unless a person can have a total overhaul, right? So the way I used to think in active addiction was, I was a gangster, I was a criminal, I was getting over on everybody, I was going to get high. If you didn't have anything that was going to benefit me, I didn't want you. Get on down the road, right? But now the way I am is I want to give back. I want to help others. I want to do the next right thing. I want to have a job. I want to take care of my son. My thinking, everything is totally, completely turned around, right? The way I act, everything is different, right? That's that psychic change. That's that change in personality. That's everything, right? But that happens when a person wants to get sober, you guys. These are things that happen gradually over a time. That's at least for me. Hey, Bama. It took me studying with my sponsor and calling her and telling her, like, I want to get high today. Calling her and telling her when I went into the Walmart that I wanted to steal, but not stealing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I would struggle. I would go into stores and I would want to steal things because that's what I had practiced doing for so long. And I would call her and I would say, I want to steal or I want to get high. And I would call her instead. And I don't know how I ever found the power to do that, you guys, because I had never called anybody before. But I had just gotten to a point where I was so desperate that calling somebody was, if I had to call her every day, 20 times a day, that's what I was going to do because I didn't know what else to do. I had just gotten to a point where I was fucking desperate, you know? And so I'm calling this grown woman, here I am, a grown woman, calling another grown woman and telling her that I want to steal and that I want to get high. And what do I do? And that's what I did, you know? And that's how this gradual change in the way I was thinking and what things I was doing happened over time for me. It didn't happen right away. And I struggled in the beginning a lot. And I still have days where I struggle a lot, you know? On the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems, he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. So it says right here, and this is the doctor, you guys, telling you like what he has seen happen for people that have struggled with alcoholism. And then he sees Bill and Ebby going around and helping all the alcoholics, right? So let's read that again. On the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand. So that's the deal. He's saying, if you don't understand, this is going to be really weird. Once a psychic change has occurred, once a change in the way you think has occurred, that the very same person who seemed doomed, the very same person who was in prison or lost their kids or was homeless on the side of the road shooting dope, who had so many problems that he never thought he was going to get them solved, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being that required, he follow a few simple rules, a few simple suggestions. Men have cried out to me in sincere and despairing appeal, "Doctor, I cannot go on like this. I have everything to live for. I must stop, but I cannot. You must help me." Faced with this problem, if a doctor is honest with himself, he must sometimes feel his own inadequacy. Although he gives all that is in him, it is often not enough. One feels that something more than human power is needed to produce this essential psychic change. Though the aggregate of recoveries resulting from psychiatric effort is considerable, we physicians must admit we have made little impression upon the problem as a whole. Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. So right there, the doctor's saying, like, many people don't respond to the way we're trying to help them. But then they see these men getting together and sharing their testimonies with each other and coming in contact and connection with a power greater than themselves, their power, their concept of that, and they're getting sober. And the doctors are like, wow, it's amazing. It's a miracle. That's what it is. When you get sober, it's a miracle. You realize that, right? I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. So he doesn't get down with that. I have had many men who have had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal which was to be settled on a certain date, favorably to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to that date, and then the phenomenon of craving at once became paramount to all other interests, so that the important appointment was not met. These men were not drinking to escape. They were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. Okay?
Bulk.
Okay, so here we go. They took a drink. Okay, so here we go. I have had many men who have had, for example, worked a period of months on some problems or business deals. So they haven't been drinking. They've been sober for months. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date. Okay, so they have this really important business deal, right? Or they got to meet with their boss because they've got to have the boss coming into work to see how the store's running, right? And they know that tomorrow the boss is coming, right? But they drink the day before. They took a drink the day or so prior to that date, and then the phenomenon of craving, right? They can't stop after one drink because the craving, and they know that they have to go see their boss tomorrow. They know if they show up to work tomorrow, they're going to get fired. But once they take the first drink, they cannot stop. That's why we cannot. If you can stay away from going out and getting that first one, going out and get that dope, that little toot, that little pill, I'm telling you guys, that's what always happens. It's always like, oh, I'll just have one. Baby, that's not how it's going to go down. I promise you, if you're like me and you go out and have one, you're going to lose your job tomorrow. Okay? Or your kids or whatever. It's that important thing. And it's always because stress, or we got stress. Maybe we're restless, irritable, discontent, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. These are all things, that emotions that set off that want to go out and use, that want to go out and pick something up to cope with the way we're feeling. These men were not drinking to escape. So they're not drinking to escape. Their lives are going great. They have good jobs. They're happy. They have a wife. The kids are beautiful. I mean, things are going good. They were drinking to overcome the craving. So once they took the drink into their body that day before, the craving kicks in, and it's like they cannot stop. That's how it is for us, you guys. That's how it is for you. And I hope this is making sense to you guys. I hope this is explaining to you why you could never stop. Why your parents would say, Julie, why are you drinking? Why won't you just stop? Don't you love us? Or, Annie, we thought you cared about us. Or your husband says to you, don't you care about our kids? Why won't you just get sober? This is why. And I'm not making excuses for you, but I hope this is like explaining to you it's more than that. It's not because you are a bad person. It's not because you're choosing to be that way. Nobody wakes up and says, you know what? I want to be a drug addict. I want to lose my kids and lose everything. I want to have every chance that I ever had a good life stripped from me because I want to get high all day long. No, that's ludicrous. There are many situations which arise out of the phenomenon of craving, which cause men to make the supreme sacrifice rather than continue to fight. Some supreme sacrifices that continue to drink instead of fight that craving, instead of fight that trigger or that thought. The classification of alcoholics seems most difficult, and in much detail is outside the scope of this book. There are, of course, the psychopaths who are emotionally unstable. We are all familiar with this type. They are always going on the wagon for keeps. They are over-remorseful and make many resolutions, but never a decision. There is that decision, the decision to stop drinking and using and take a hold of your life. You know what I'm saying? And you can do that, you guys. We all can do that. That's what we're doing now. If you're here right now today and you're in this big book study, then you're deciding today that you're not going to drink and use. And that's a miracle. There is the type of man who is unwilling to admit that he cannot take a drink. He plans various ways of drinking. He changes his brand or his environment. There is the type who always believes that after being entirely free from alcohol for a period of time, he can take a drink without danger. There is the manic depressive type, who is perhaps the least understood by his friends, and about whom a whole chapter could be written. Then there are types entirely normal in every respect except in the effect of alcohol has upon them. They are often able, intelligent, and friendly people. All these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard, but this phenomenon of craving that they keep repeating in here, this is like the 7th time they've said it in this chapter. And this chapter is the shortest chapter in the book. This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy, which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. We're different than other people. We're a distinct entity, y'all. Hear that? We're addicts. We're alcoholics. It has never been by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. You hear that? It has never been by any treatment with which we are familiar. So the doctor's not familiar with any treatment that has permanently eradicated addiction and alcoholism. Now, you can, like I am right now, in remission, right? My alcoholism and my addiction is in remission because I'm treating it. I am doing my meditation. I'm waking up and talking to God. I'm reading my big book. I'm studying. I'm helping others. I'm sharing my testimony, right? These are things, seeking God, cleaning house, helping others. These are things that I do to help keep my addiction and my alcoholism in remission, right? But it's never going to go away Because if I get a beer, let's pretend this is a beer, and I crack it open and I take a drink, it's going to set that what? What is it going to set off? The phenomenon of craving. That craving that a normal person, a person who doesn't have the disease of addiction will never understand. That's what makes you different than anyone else. It's a chemical reaction. It's a reaction on our brains. It's a craving. You cannot fight it. I'm not going to test it. I'm not even going to try. I was about to say maybe I could. I don't know. I'm not going to try it. Like, I'm not going to go get crack and smoke it, or heroin and shoot it, or a beer and drink it and test myself. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. I have to underline that. It has never been permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest it is abstinence. This immediately precipitates us into a seething cauldron of debates. Y'all hear that? Much has been written pro and con, but among physicians, the general opinion seems to be that the most chronic alcoholics are doomed. What is the solution? Perhaps I can best answer this by relating one of my own experiences. So here we go. About 1 year prior to this experience, a man was brought in to be treated for chronic alcoholism. He had but partially recovered from a gastric hemorrhage and seemed to be a case of a pathological mental deterioration. He had been but partially recovered from a gastric hemorrhage and seemed to be a case of pathological mental deterioration. He had lost everything worthwhile in his life and was only living, one might say, to drink. I've been there. When I lost my son, and I was living to use drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was no reason to go on anymore. He frankly admitted and believed that for him, there was no hope. Following the elimination of alcohol, there was found to be no permanent brain injury. So they took away alcohol, and he was sobered up, and he didn't have alcoholic brain, that I'm talking about. I think it's called like water brain, or y'all know what I'm talking about. So he didn't have any brain injury, you guys. He accepted the plan outlined in this book. 1 year later, he called to see me, and I experienced a very strange sensation. I knew the man by name and partially recognized his features, but their all resemblance ended. From a trembling, despairing, nervous wreck had emerged a man brimming over with self-reliance and contentment. I talked with him for some time, but was not able to bring myself to feel that I had known him before. To me, he was a stranger, and so he left me. A long time has passed with no return to alcohol. When I need a mental uplift, I often think of another case brought in by a physician prominent in New York. The patient had made his own diagnosis and, deciding his situation hopeless, had hidden in a deserted barn, determined to die. He was rescued by a searching party and, in desperate condition, brought to me. Following his physical rehabilitation, he had a talk with me in which he frankly stated he thought the treatment was a waste of effort, unless I could assure him, which no one ever had, that in the future he would have the willpower to resist the impulse to drink. His alcoholic problem was so complex and his depression was so great that we felt his only hope would be through what we then called moral psychology, and we doubted even if that would have any effect. However, he did become sold on the ideas contained in this book. He has not had a drink for a great many years. I see him now and then, and he is a fine specimen of manhood, as one could wish to meet. I earnestly advise every alcoholic or addict to read this book thoroughly, and through perhaps he came to scoff, he may remain to pray. The end. That's it. That's the doctor's opinion, y'all. So the doctor's telling y'all, read this book And you might laugh now, but baby, you may remain to pray if you read this book and do what they tell you to do in this book. And so that is the doctor's opinion. So I love reading this. It gets me so excited because it's telling me right here in this book, it's telling me like, no, Nicole, you're not a bad person. You didn't get high and drunk because you want, it's not like, oh, you know what? I'm going to get high and drunk and ruin my life because I'm a bad person, because I want to hurt my family. No, it's because I am physically and mentally different than my fellows, you guys. Because I have the disease of addiction. Because I have, and without treatment, addiction is chronic. I will die, right? And so this is my treatment. Helping others and sharing my story, that's my treatment, right? These are things that help me to stay sober today. And by being able to read over this with you guys, this is like, I love this. This makes me so happy, you know? So anyway, I'm sorry. I just get so excited because you guys, we can all recover from the disease of addiction, and we can all work and stay sober and do the right thing and be happy, joyous, and free, right? But there's just a few things that we have to do, right? And just take a few suggestions, okay? And so if you're struggling and you feel all alone, you're not. You're not all alone, and you're not a bad person, all right? You have a disease, and you have to treat it. You know, we have to start treating addiction like a disease and stop treating it as a failing, you know, as a moral failing, because it's not what it is. It's a chronic illness. So I love you guys, and I'm so excited. I just had the best time reading that with you guys. And next week, what we're going to do is Tuesday night, next week, at Tuesday night at 7 or 8, whatever time is best for you guys, we're going to do this again. And we're going to do Bill's story, you guys, okay? And so Bill's story is the guy that the doctor was talking about in the letter. That's who Bill is. And so do you see what I'm saying? So the doctor was setting you up. He was telling you that this book is what Bill and his friends wrote. And this is the book. And that's who he was treating in the sanitarium. So I hope that kind of helped you guys understand. So let's go through the disease concept real quick before I get off here, and we'll do it together. So the way I remember it is I go like this. Trigger. Thought. TTO. Trigger. Thought. Obsession. Okay? So we get a trigger, right? Maybe we're driving down the street and we see, oh, Johnny boy who used to sell us heroin. And then what happens? That triggers a thought in our mind. Oh, Johnny boy used to have the best heroin, right? And if we don't change that thought process right then and focus on something else, focus on giving back, focusing on helping someone else, focusing on coming over to Nicole's channel and doing a meeting with us, right? If we don't change that thought, then we're going to go into obsession. Obsession is where we're obsessing about how we're going to get a hold of Johnny boy, how we're going to get the heroin, how we're going to use it. We're going to shoot it. We're going to snort it. We're going to smoke it. Right? Trigger, thought, obsession, use. Then we use it. We got it and we use it. What happens after we use? The phenomenon of craving. That craving kicks in and we start all over again on that spree. And then after that spree, we're like, damn it. I shouldn't have done that. I'm never going to get high again. I'm going to stop. Today I'm going to sober up. I don't want to lose my family, right? And it repeats itself over and over and over again until we get beat down so low that we can't take it anymore. And then we get so desperate, right, that we reach out for help. And whatever help looks like for you, help could look like meetings and medically assisted treatment. Help could look like therapy meetings and medically assisted treatment. Help could look like one-on-one counseling. But you have to reach out for help, you guys. That's just the bottom line. You can't do it alone. Yeah, I will, Annie. So, okay, guys. I love y'all. Is there anything you guys want to talk about before I go? Is there any questions? Is there anything you guys want to say, share, anything? Neil came in here and I was going off in here, you guys. Like, he knows how excited I get when I talk to you guys. So I really don't drink Coke, but he brought me home one, so I'll drink it right now. Okay. So Tuesday we'll do it again. So we'll do one once a week, you guys. So next week is going to be Bill's story. And it's a little bit longer than the doctor's opinion. So I won't stop so much like I did today. But today I felt like it was important for me to like drill the parts in that I really connected with. So that way I can explain it to you, you know? Yeah, Annie, you know, girl, I love doing this, you guys. Okay, so Bill's story is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages long. So 16, front and back, 8 pages. So now you're gonna get to hear all about Bill and his alcoholism, how it started out, how he went through it, how he went to the sanitarium many times because the doctor treated him and shared it with us in the chapter before. But now we're going to get to he'll hear his whole story. So, I love you guys, and I'm so glad that so many of you guys came tonight. And I want you to know, like, I'm always here if you guys ever want to talk. If you need to get a hold of me, you can always email me at demeon@yahoo.com, or you can Instagram. But I absolutely just love doing this with you guys. And like I said, I'm just trying to explain it to you the way my sponsor explained it to me, right? Because I know whenever I was first reading the big book, I didn't understand what all the words meant. I didn't understand it. So I'm just trying to break it down for you in the way I understand it. And so it might not be like the way your sponsor taught you or somebody else's sponsor taught them, but I'm just trying to break it into layman's terms because that's how I have to understand it, And so the doctor's opinion is just exactly that. The doctor's opinion on the disease of addiction. And he's telling you, how the disease works in our brain. All right. And how it's in our mind and our body. And how he has treated many people who he thought were hopeless, that he thought was never going to recover from the disease of addiction, right? And alcoholism. But then he saw these guys that created this program of what it is it's connecting. It's a fellowship, right? Of another addict and alcoholic to another addict alcoholic, sharing their stories and relating to each other. And that's helping them heal. And that's that connection, right? Because the opposite of addiction is connection. And when we're in active addiction, you guys, we isolate and we pull away from everyone because we're hurting. We're hurting inside, right? But today we don't have to do that anymore today. And you're not alone and you don't have to do that. So for real, shout out to everybody who came tonight. Y'all are the real MVPs. Thanks for letting me go off on a tangent here and share with you guys. But I love AA and I love this book, and it's really helped me to understand that, like I said, I'm not a bad person. I have a disease. And when I'm feeding my disease, I'm sick, right? And as long as I take suggestions and stay connected, I can keep my disease at bay, right? I love you guys though. And I'm going to go hang out with the boys upstairs because they're all up there, and I haven't got to see Neil because he just got home from work. But it's Wednesday night, so let's say tomorrow's Thursday. I'll probably take tomorrow night off, but I'll be back on Friday night for, guess what? Our MAT support group. So those of you who are on Suboxone or methadone or Vivitrol or whatever your medically assisted treatment support is, come Friday night at 8 p.m. Central, and we're going to have a meeting. And what I do usually is I just throw stuff out there and we get to talking, and then y'all, it's just great. You'll love it. So come if you have questions, if you're struggling with anything, come to that MAT support group. And also be looking out because I'm going to have Dr. B on to answer you guys' questions. So if you're on medically assisted treatment and you have questions for Dr. B, his his person just emailed me the other day, and I have to get back to him. And we're going to hook up, and he's going to come on and answer you guys' questions. So I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a great night. And I'll see you guys tomorrow during the day sometime for a little daytime live stream, okay? Love y'all.